If you're a founder building a brand right now or in the future, keep watching. The number one question I get from founders is asking whether or not they should be the face of their business. And social media has completely changed the game for founder-led brands because with AI and a lack of authenticity online, people don't just buy the product today, they buy you. So in this video, I'm walking through the 5 reasons why if you're a founder, you need a brand and what those 5 kinds of brands actually look like. The first founder-led brand type is the taste-led founder, and they build an audience before they ever have something to sell. Disney was started by Walt Disney, and he was what we call a taste-led founder, even being called the ultimate taste maker. He made sure that Disney parks were held to a completely different quality standard than any competitors and were a meticulously clean, safe, and colorful environment. And his taste shaped what entertainment, what wonder, what childhood should feel like for entire generations. And he was so successful because he made Disney, his name, into a brand people trusted. And so many founders since have copied this strategy. So before there was Glossier, there was The Gloss, a beauty editorial blog run by Emily Weiss, where she wrote about what she used, what she loved, what she thought the beauty industry was getting totally wrong. Readers followed her not because she was a celebrity, but because her taste was specific, consistent, and worth trusting. By the time she launched Glossier in 2014, that community had spent 4 years telling her exactly what they wanted to see in a skincare line. She listened, she built it, and the trust was already embedded before a product ever shipped. The audience came before the brand. And while that can look on the outside like a delay, it was actually a competitive strategy. As a taste-led founder, you're not building a product people trust, you're becoming the filter people trust before they buy anything. And once people trust you, they then trust the product. That's how products not only fly off shelves, but actually build loyalty. What's different now is that with social media, you don't need a studio or a distribution deal to do what Walt Disney did. You just need a point of view and somewhere to share it. And right now, AI is a direct threat to the product side of every business. It can replicate a formula, it can generate a design, it can flood a market with alternatives before any team can respond. So if your only differentiator is in what you sell, that differentiator is shrinking or it's gone. But AI cannot replicate judgment. It cannot tell an audience what is genuinely worth their attention. I mean, it can, but not in a way that feels earned. That is taste. And it's the one competitive advantage that technology cannot manufacture. For brands without it, every launch is cold and every customer has to be won from scratch. The product has to do all the work, and that's a fragile and expensive position to build from. So as a taste-led founder, your first move isn't a product launch, it's picking one channel and starting to show people how you see the world. Instagram or YouTube are where this takes hold the fastest. And just share. Share what you love, what you'd buy, what nobody's getting right yet. Use trial reels to test messages with brand new audiences. You don't need a product to start building trust. Your taste is the product right now. And when your audience eventually starts shaping what you make, the way Glossier's community did, that's when you know it's working. The taste-led founder builds trust through curation, but this next founder type builds through a different kind of authority. And if you're wondering what kind of founder you are, check the link in the description for a free assessment tool. The second founder-led brand type is the expertise-led founder, and they sell interpretation. Jason Fried and David Hanmeyer Hansen, or DHH, didn't just build software. They built an anti-philosophy. Anti-hustle, anti-office, anti-growth for growth's sake. Now, those opinions not only surprised most people in the software industry, they made those people like VCs really uncomfortable. And they shared their opinions everywhere, on repeat, like on their blog, in books, on Twitter. It helped a generation of tech founders learn to interpret the business of software. Their blog was one of the most widely read in the world during the 2010s. Their books became New York Times bestsellers, most of which were blog posts that they just compiled. DHH created Ruby on Rails, one of the most widely used programming frameworks ever built. And the duo built Basecamp, project management software that's not just widely used, but also beloved. Every time DHH or Jason Fried makes something, a book, a product, 1 million people line up to get it. By the time you signed up for the book or the product, you already knew exactly what the company stood for because of the founder's messaging. Their thinking had sold their audience sooner than the product did. As an expertise-led founder, you're not just sharing information. You're becoming the person whose thinking people turn to first. And when that happens, you don't just represent the business, you become its distribution channel. Right now, as AI just floods every category with just generic information, the founder with specific trusted judgment has become scarce. April Dunford did this with B2B positioning. She teaches the same framework repeatedly across every channel, and now her name is synonymous with the discipline. Bob or Bobby Mesta did it for jobs to be done. Neither of them needed millions of followers. They needed the right people to associate their name with one specific way of thinking and to keep showing up wherever those people were. Founders who don't share their thinking publicly are invisible until someone has already decided they need help. And by then, they're competing against whoever already claimed that position. So, as an expertise-led founder, pick your thinking, and instead of going wide, go deep. LinkedIn or a newsletter is where this sort of founder-led brand tends to take hold fastest. But before you pick, use a tool like SparkToro. It tells you exactly where your specific audience spends time online. The expertise-led founder wins by going very deep in one place, not thinly across all of them. And the framework doesn't have to be entirely original. If a way of thinking already exists, but it hasn't been taught clearly, or it needs a new angle, don't wait. Start teaching it repeatedly until people stop crediting the idea or the market category and start crediting you. People don't think tissue, they think Kleenex. People don't think bandage, they think Band-Aid. And for your area of expertise, people should think of your name, not the category name. That is the brand power here, category dominance. Now, not every founder wins by sharing their thinking. Some win by naming what they believe. The third founder-led brand type is the mission-led founder, and they are the ones who start movements. Walk into any pharmacy and stand in front of the razor aisle. Count the blades, read the promises. Now ask yourself, who actually needed any of that? A man named Michael Dubin was the one who said it out loud. And you might not know his name, but I can guarantee you know his brand's name. In 2012, he made a single video calling out the entire grooming industry for overcomplicating and overcharging men for technology they did not need. It wasn't a polished ad campaign. It was a specific, unapologetic point of view. And within 48 hours, his company had 12,000 orders of the razors. The company was Dollar Shave Club. A mere 4 years later, that is not a long time, Unilever had acquired the company for $1 billion in cash. But what Michael Dubin built wasn't really a razor business. He became the symbolic best friend of every man who'd ever felt the grooming industry was laughing at him. That's a different kind of brand equity and loyalty than any product feature, any number of titanium razor blades could possibly build. As a mission-led founder, you're not asking people to trust your taste or follow your thinking. You're asking them to stand for something with you, to be the rebel, to fight back. The loyalty it creates isn't something a product feature could ever manufacture. And at a moment when institutional trust is at an all-time low, when people are actively looking for something real to believe in, like church attendance is on the rise for the first time in more than 20 years, the mission-led founder is exactly what they're looking for. When people are bought into what you stand for, a competitor with a better product or a lower price doesn't even threaten you. And a lot of modern apps and companies are just a prime example of this. Whitney Wolfe Herd built Bumble on a clear mission against the power and gender dynamics that dominated dating culture. Simon Griffiths built Who Gives a Crap on a mission against the environmental damage of conventional toilet paper. Neither brand competes on features. They compete on belief, and belief is harder to walk away from than any subscription. Without belief, customer loyalty is often just transactional and really only held together by price and convenience. The moment a competitor offers something better or cheaper, there's really nothing keeping people from walking away and spending their money somewhere else. So as a mission-led founder, your platform of choice is video. Interviews and podcasts are where your mission comes through the way it needs to, not a polished statement on a website, but you in conversation, interpreting what's broken in your industry and why it matters to fix it. Name the frustration clearly, name it repeatedly. The people who feel it will find you. And if you don't know what the frustration is, listen to customers and prospects. I literally wrote an entire book on how to do that, so grab a copy. The link's in the description below. And for founders, without a clear enemy or a cause to rally around, the most powerful move might be the most counterintuitive one. Just show your work. The fourth founder-led brand type is the build-in-public founder, the one who shares their process. Most of us are taught to wait until something is finished before sharing it. We don't show the rough draft, the failed test, or the pivot. We're taught to wait until we have something worth showing. And certainly no one wants to see your failures, but what happens when we don't do what we're taught? Ben Francis started Gymshark from his parents' garage, sewing gym gear, documenting the process, and showing up inside the fitness community. He collaborated with creators who had small, not big, small but loyal audiences and borrowed their credibility before he had built his own. And while the product wasn't finished and the brand definitely wasn't finished, the community was taking incredible shape. And that community is now one of the most tribal in fitness, which is already very tribal. And it grew slowly inside niche communities, long before anyone outside of them paid any attention. As a build-in-public founder, what you're doing when you share your wins and your fails in real time is specific. You are giving people a reason to root for you. That emotional investment is something no ad budget can create. And in a world where AI is obviously generating increasingly polished assets, with companies just like ditching photo shoots for AI-generated perfect mock-ups of their clothes and their products, that raw human transparency is what cuts through. But there's a downside. There's something called the Valley of Despair, and every founder who builds in public goes through it. Basically, you're out there sharing, and it feels like nobody is paying attention. It's crickets. That's the moment that most people stop. They give up. But the founders who know that valley is coming, or they're in it and they keep going anyway, are the ones who come out the other side with something that nobody can replicate easily. The whole journey documented. That's worth more than any highlight reel. It is proof that you did what you did. Adam Robinson has been doing exactly this with RB2B on LinkedIn, sharing the build in real time, the decisions, the doubts, the wins. The audience that forms around that kind of transparency doesn't just become customers, they actually become invested. And founders who wait until something is finished are just cold launching every single time. They have no community, no pre-built trust, and no one besides their family and friends rooting for them. And while they're waiting to have something worth showing, the build-in-public founder is weeks, months, sometimes years ahead. So as a build-in-public founder, start documenting this week. The decision you made today, the thing that didn't go the way you planned, the question you're still working out. Hold up your phone, talk into it, just hit publish. Or grab your meta glasses and record yourself vibe coding. Then post it. X, YouTube, LinkedIn, those are where this tends to take hold. But the right one depends entirely on where your specific audience already is. Don't measure it by who is watching at the start. No one is. Trust compounds quietly for a long time before it becomes visible. That is just how it works. This last type of founder-led brand is the one that takes the longest to build, but creates something none of the others quite get. The fifth and final founder-led brand type is the lifestyle-led founder, and their product isn't what they make, it's how they live. The world is completely obsessed with lifestyle brands, and especially founder-led ones. That's why social media influencers who share their lifestyle end up starting brands that are just massively successful. People buy their products because they want to buy their lifestyle. Think Emma Chamberlain starting Chamberlain Coffee, and Alex Earl starting Real Actives, which hit $1 million in sales just 5 minutes after launching and hit $5 million in sales, sold out by the end of the launch day. And Richard Christensen didn't start Flamingo Estate, one of the biggest nature-focused lifestyle product brands, with a product launch. He started it by sharing his world on Instagram. The garden at golden hour, the way he thought about slowness, ritual, and domestic beauty. None of it was promotional. It was just how he lived, and how he lived looked good. When the time came to release his products, people didn't need to be convinced to buy them. They'd spent months living inside what he created through Instagram, through email, through editorial content and collaborations that just kept expanding. what Flamingo Estate felt like. Owning something from Flamingo Estate became a way of saying something about who you are. Now, as a lifestyle-led founder, you're not curating the world for people, you're inviting into your own world. You become the editorial director of a world view. Every post, every product, every collab is just another expression of that same sensibility. And what makes this type different from the other four is that it is not attached to any one product, idea, or even a moment. When people are drawn into your way of living, that relationship can support many things over a long time. Chip and Joanna Gaines did it with Magnolia, a TV presence that became a channel, a magazine, a full retail ecosystem. Patagonia has done it for decades. Their founders' values about the environment became the brand's entire identity, and every product they sell embodies that. Without it, your brand is only as strong as your latest product or feature release. That stuff can be replicated, undercut, made obsolete. The lifestyle-led founder has built something immune to those forces. So, as a lifestyle-led founder, Instagram is where this comes to life most naturally. What you're sharing isn't products or launches, it's gonna be your actual life, and specifically, how you choose to live it. So your non-negotiable morning ritual, the walk you take at the same time every day, the corner of your home where you feel most like yourself. This type takes the longest to build. Honestly, 3 to 7 years is pretty realistic. That's not a warning. It's a feature. The trust you collect along the way is the real asset. Now you know why people don't just buy the product, they buy the founder. Pick your type, start before you feel ready, and if you want to go deeper on the psychology behind building personal brands, watch this video next.